Canada and the United States are two of the most tightly connected economies in the world. And look, we share the world's longest undefended border. We also trade over $1 trillion in goods and services every single year. But what happens when that relationship is put under pressure? What happens when a US president, like Donald Trump, says Canada is getting too good of a deal? And not just Canada, but most countries, and threatens new tariffs on Canadian oil, steel, aluminum, and even auto. This isn't theoretical. In early 2025, Trump floated a 10% baseline tariff on Canadian oil and gas, suggesting we were taking advantage of the United States. He then followed up with threats of 25% and even 50% when Doug Ford so boldly stood up to him with electricity duties and then backed down about 3 hours later. Now, whether you support Trump or not, his negotiating style is consistent. Maximize leverage, bring manufacturing home, and reward countries that align with U.S. interests. So here's my question. What should Canada do, or what at least can they do? Because let's be clear, we don't just get to sit this one out. 3 out of every 4 Canadian exports go to the United States. If trade with the U.S. is weaponized, we feel that in jobs, prices, and long-term economic security. And look, unfortunately, we're already seeing signs of that. In April 2025, General Motors announced a wind down of electric van production at its CAMI assembly plant in Ingersoll, Ontario, leading to the layoff of all 1,200 workers until October. Only about 700 are expected to return when production resumes. Similarly, Stellantis temporarily paused operations at its Windsor, Ontario assembly plant, idling approximately 4,500 workers. These shutdowns have also affected the United States. Facilities, they are affected, but not as bad, with just about 900 workers laid off in Indiana and Michigan. You see, every decision that the United States makes impacts us more than them. Honda forecasted the tariffs will hit profits hard and just stall the $15 billion investment in Canadian EV plants that just about a year ago, the provincial government here in Ontario bragged about investing in. This is what happens when policy uncertainty becomes economic reality. So, in this episode, I want to do something a little bit different. I'm not here to take sides. I'm not here to fearmonger. I want to walk you through the actual strategy Canada could take, because there's so many questions in the air. How can we know the steps that Canada might take? Well, here are some probable ones. We'll break down why simply replacing the US as a trade partner isn't super realistic, what leverage Canada does have, and how we can position ourselves in a way that actually helps both countries win. So let's start with the hard truth. And I say this with no political spin. Canada can simply not afford to go toe-to-toe in a trade war. We are the smaller economy and the more trade-dependent partner. So the idea of a full-on tariff war where both sides hurt equally, it doesn't really hold up. So it makes the point pretty clear. Retaliation isn't the best answer. With our economy, GDP being around 2 to 3 trillion and the United States being just near 30, the numbers don't lie. When Canada responded to U.S. steel tariffs back in 2018 with our own duties on things like bourbon, ketchup, and orange juice, yeah, it made headlines in Canada, but it really didn't change the deal. It didn't fix the underlying power imbalance. So here's my question. What does fix it? You see, some Canadians say, just walk away, trade more with Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. And in theory, yeah, that sounds really appealing. But in practice, it may fall apart quite quickly. Let's take natural gas as an example. Europe has been asking for Canadian LNG for years, especially after Russia invaded Ukraine. They want our energy, but we never built the infrastructure to deliver it. No major LNG terminals on the East Coast, no national pipeline network connecting supply to ports, and no global shipping routes from our fields to their markets. So even if they're ready to buy, we can't sell it in large volume. And building that capacity, it'll take 5 to 10 years, long after Trump is gone and long after this trade pressure has played out. The same story with Asia. Yes, they're growing, but distance, diplomacy, and logistics make them decades away from being a true replacement for the world's largest consumer economy, the United States market. And with that, we'll be back with more to discuss Canada's strategy, what they can actually do to overcome these tariff threats. See you soon. Previously, we discussed the ability Canada has to replace the United States as a major trading partner, and we kind of got to the conclusion that they really can't. That's where we stand. We cannot replace the United States, and I don't think we should try to, at least maybe think about it a little bit deeper, but we also can't be passive. We need to play a smarter game, one built on value, not retaliation. Because the truth is, we actually hold more leverage than we think. And this begs my next question. Could what's best for Canada align with what's best for the United States? You see, we have resources, we have stability, and we have a track record of being the US's most aligned democratic partner on global issues. And that's where we're going to dive into next. So if we can't just replace the United States as a trade partner, how do we negotiate from a position of strength? Well, we do it by showing that Canada is essential, not just economically, but strategically. And that is something that the United States already knows and has admitted to. To the stability of the entire North American system, Canada is huge. Let's start with critical minerals. Canada is one of the few countries in the world that has every single one of the 31 minerals deemed critical by the United States government. We're talking lithium, nickel, cobalt, graphite, rare earth elements, and the raw materials that power everything from electric vehicle batteries, wind turbines, smartphones, and even military technologies like fighter jets and satellites, all things that aligns with US strategy, like as an example, bringing NVIDIA back to the United States in manufacturing. The US is actively trying to reduce reliance on foreign suppliers like China and bring its supply chains closer to home. And guess who's literally right next door with some of the richest untapped reserves on the planet? You're looking at us, Canada. According to the Canadian Mining Association, there are hundreds of billions of dollars worth of critical minerals beneath our soil, but most of them aren't extracted. You see, that's a challenge, but it also poses a major opportunity if we choose to be optimistic about it. Because the United States doesn't just want access to minerals. It wants secure access, it wants trusted access, and it wants it from democratic allies. You see, in May 2025, Trump's administration signed a mineral deal with Ukraine, giving American companies preferential access to development rights. So the question is, why not Canada? You see, we're closer, we're more stable, we already share defense and intelligence relationships. The only thing maybe missing is speed. Canada can walk into this negotiation and potentially say, we have what you need, we're arms open. But to unlock it, we need to move fast. And we need the right kind of partnership. That could look like United States firms investing directly into Canadian mining and refining infrastructure. Or even better yet, Canada launching competitive lease programs with companies in Canada and maybe the United States, where companies must commit to building processing capacity within a fixed time frame, as you know, 36 months maybe, or risk losing access to the land. You see, China is one of the world, if not the world's largest processor of critical minerals. And if Canada can compete against that, doesn't that bode nicely with the United States' goal to eliminate critical need of resources from China? It does three things for us. It gives us credibility. We're signaling to the world that we're serious about becoming a critical minerals hub. It creates jobs. We're not just shipping out raw materials. We're capturing the value here at home, and it gives us negotiating power because we're not just the mine. We are the supply chain. Not even China can do that. China has to bring in the raw materials, ship them in, import them, and then process them to export out. Canada can extract them from their own ground, process them, and then sell them. You see, it flips the dynamic. Canada isn't dependent on US goodwill, and instead we become the foundation of US clean tech and defense manufacturing. But that's just one part of the equation. Let's talk energy like we did before. Canada is the largest foreign supplier of energy to the United States by a wide margin. Over 60% of US oil imports come from Canada. including crude oil from Alberta, natural gas through cross-border pipelines, hydroelectric power from Quebec and Manitoba. It's reliable, democratic, and affordable. And yet, President Trump has threatened to place a 10% baseline tariff on Canadian oil. That kind of move might play well politically, but practically, it might mean higher prices at the pump in swing states like Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Ohio. Now, we'll be right back to continue our discussion on Canada and its energy ability to be a superpower. Stay tuned for more only on My Generation. I'ma rule the world, I'ma rule the world, yeah. I'ma rule the world, I'ma rule the world, yeah. I left off my previous point talking about how Canada could become an energy partner with the United States, even in more depth. Now, here's the thing. Canada has already tried to deepen energy ties with the United States, but was it Canada or was it Alberta? You see, take Keystone XL as an example. It was an $8 billion pipeline that would have moved oil from Alberta to U.S. refineries in the Midwest. It was actually backed by $1.5 billion in Alberta government investment and $6 billion in loan guarantees from the government of Alberta. President Obama denied it. And frankly, Trudeau didn't really support it either. Trump quickly approved the project. Biden canceled it again. So if the U.S. is taking a drill, baby, drill approach, in President Trump's words, Canada's message should be, you want more energy from friendly sources? Work with us. We're not the problem, we're the solution. And if the U.S. still wants leverage on us, then convince them that this is enough. We give them a structured plan and we say, hey, we're ready to double down on oil, LNG, hydrogen, and clean hydro exports. And we'll move fast because we see the value in being a partner with you. But only if our oil and gas, auto, and agriculture continue to flow tariff-free. Maybe we can allow a 10% baseline tariff that Trump claims offsets currency. Now, that approach isn't confrontational. That's alignment, and it's a win-win. You see, Canada gets the infrastructure investment and jobs. The U.S. gets a stable energy partner and lower risk of price spikes. I mean, we saw in the 70s, the Yom Kippur War, where Saudi Arabia placed an oil embargo on North America, and it brought prices for oil way up. We don't want that to happen again. It's a national security risk. So it's in the United States' best interest to work with safe, secure energy partners that are reliable. It's not just external pressures driving this, though. Canada's energy sector has been demanding action from within. Get this. In May 2025, 40 CEOs from Canada's largest oil, gas, and pipeline companies, including companies like Enbridge, wrote an open letter to Prime Minister Mark Carney. Their message was put bluntly like this: Canada's global reputation as a reliable energy supplier is at risk. You see, they called for a fast-tracked regulatory process, a clear national strategy for building major energy projects, and government support to help unlock billions in private investment. They didn't mince any words. They said Canada is sitting on a chance to lead in energy security, not just in North America, but globally, and not just for itself, but for its allies. And now, with U.S. tariffs on the table and global competition heating up, it kind of begs the question, may the Liberal government look and say, all right, we got to rethink our environmental playbook? You see, maybe there's a world in which they can do both, have a focus on environment and clean tech and clean energy, while also making energy or oil and natural gas, LNG, a superpower that Canada can provide. That letter reads less like a policy proposal and more like a national playbook when you think of it that way. Between critical minerals and energy, Canada holds two of the biggest keys to U.S. economic strategy. Add in a stable banking system, a strong legal framework, a history of military alignment with NATO, and Canada becomes too strategic to just simply sideline. So what's the game plan? Don't retaliate, but don't fold. Instead, let's negotiate by showing our value and our commitment to working together. And as Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent always says, that's all they want to see. We want to make it clear this isn't just another trading partner. We aren't just another trading partner. We're a co-architect of continental stability for North America. And if Canada wants to come out of this trade dispute stronger, not weaker, it needs to do more than just simply defend itself. You see, it needs to negotiate clearly, calmly, and with a message that frames our role as essential to both success for countries. And in that regard, tone matters. So with that being said, let's show a quick clip of Prime Minister Mark Carney sitting down with President Donald Trump earlier this year.
To transform Canada with a similar focus on the economy, securing our borders, again on fentanyl, much greater focus on defense and security, securing the Arctic and developing the Arctic. And the history of Canada and the U.S. is we're stronger when we work together, and there's many opportunities to work together. And I look forward to, addressing some of those issues that we have, but also finding those areas of mutual cooperation so we can move forward.
That's great. Very nice. Thank you very much.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
I'ma rule the world, I'ma rule the world, yeah. I'ma rule the world, I'ma rule the world, yeah.
I just showed a clip in my previous segment of Prime Minister Mark Carney sitting down with President Trump. And to quickly recap here, the Oval Office meeting with the President Trump and Mark Carney showed a mix of stability and firmness. And here are my thoughts. When Trump joked about buying Canada, Carney didn't escalate it. He responded, there are some places that are never for sale. And having met with the owners of Canada, it's not for sale, won't be for sale ever. There was no outrage, no confrontation, although it was, but it was done nicely. Just a direct line that reasserted Canadian sovereignty and then moved on. You see, that kind of composure sets a standard, and whoever's at the table next needs to keep it that way, whether it's a minister or it's the prime minister. The strategy starts by understanding what America actually wants out of these negotiations. Trump's team and broader U.S. trade strategy is focused on four main things. We've got national security, job reparation, resource control, and allied alignment. So Canada's approach should begin by saying, we understand your priorities, and here's how we help you meet them. That's minerals, that's energy, that's defense alignment. But to be credible, we also need to address an important question, and here it is. If Canada has all of these strengths, and what I'm saying makes even a slight bit of sense, why haven't we acted sooner? The honest answer? Environmental policy. Over the past decade, Canada has committed to ambitious net zero goals, which as a Gen Z, I appreciate. Emissions caps, clean energy targets, and a carbon pricing framework. That has shaped public policy in Canada and permitting the pace of infrastructure as well. It's not about politics, it's about priorities. But that slower pace has come with a severe cost. Because while Canada took its time, countries like China, Russia, and the Middle East moved fast, often without any of the same environmental or labor standards. In fact, China still relies on coal for over 53% of its energy production. Yes, it's going down year over year, but it's still there and it's still significant. It's the single most polluting source on the planet. If Canada can scale responsibly and competitively, we could effectively replace that energy on the global market with cleaner, ethically sourced power. Now, that doesn't just help our economy, it helps clean up the world's. So what now? Well, listen, Canada doesn't just abandon its climate goals, and that's not what I'm saying. Instead, we could look to reposition them as our competitive edge. And this is the way that we could position this. You want clean energy and minerals? You want labor protections, something that we don't really see from China? You want environmental safeguards? Again, something we don't really see from them. We already have those built in. With speed and reliability, we can help the United States become an energy superpower and make North America an energy dominant superpower that doesn't even need any form of imports on oil, natural gas, or any kind of energy from other parts of the world. You see, that is our pitch. And to the world, we are democratic, we're transparent, and we're resource rich with ethical standards. We just need to scale it up. And to do that, we need a stable trade relationship with our closest partner. And here's where time becomes a tool. The US doesn't need to apply tariffs right away. They can extend the threat of tariffs and use that looming deadline as leverage on us. And that's actually a window for us. If Canada shows tangible progress, fast-tracking permits, opening leases, breaking ground on infrastructure, just like the CEOs of Canada's top energy companies requested, it gives the US a reason to hold off. But this only works if both the federal government and the private sector move in tandem. If the Liberal government doesn't want tariffs applied, and neither do the companies in energy and minerals, then both need to move with a huge sense of urgency. This includes a hard rethink of existing environmental legislation, particularly Bill C-69, which I know has been hot in the news. It's been criticized for holding back major infrastructure through lengthy approval processes and a little bit more. If we want to not be taken seriously, or if we want to be taken seriously, then we have to be decisive, not just by the US, but by the global market. Those bottlenecks have to be addressed now. And that's how you build a negotiation that isn't just about pride. It's about outcomes, not confrontational, but alignment, not dependency, but mutual benefit. And that's the tone Canada should carry into the room, whether it's Carney or anyone else. I know that was a lot of information to take in, so bear with me. I want to hear it from you, especially if you feel I missed something or you just simply disagree, which I'm sure you will. Join the conversation at My Generation on all socials. We'll end off with this. Do not simply accept what you are told. Challenge your thinking, engage in differences, and listen to new perspectives. Thank you.
I'ma rule the world.